Good morning and assalamu alaikum. It is the 4th of September, 10 o'clock, and you're listening to me, Shemiza, taking you all the way up to 11 o'clock on where else? It's Inspire FM 105.1 FM. We're going out to the wonderful people of Luton surrounding areas, plus Peterborough's Salam Radio and Sheffield's Link FM. I hope you are well and enjoying the start of this wonderful morning. It's glorious in Luton. The sun's definitely out. I hear it's going to be quite warm across the week, so folks, do keep safe in the shade. It's always good to have your sunscreen and your hats and your water all on the ready. It is the start to the week, and I hope you've had a great weekend, folks, and a wonderful start to the week. And I'm going to be catching up with what's been going on at the weekend, because I'm going to be talking about the Luton in Bloom project, because they had their finalists announced at the event at the weekend, and also the launch of the farmers market. So Brother Tariq will be joining me to talk to you guys all about that. Now, for many of us, it is the start of getting our children back to school. Yes, I can hear a lot of people, having a bit of a whoop. Some of you might be sad, others might be happy, but it takes quite a lot of organisation to kind of get our children ready and back to school, getting them up on time, getting ourselves up on time if you are working from home or you're a stay-at-home parent. Wow, it's a real mission in itself. So well done to all the mums and dads who've survived the summer with their children, and Mubarak to everybody on taking their children on the next milestone of their life, because many will be now getting ready to go to university. Others will be starting their A-levels and doing their GCSEs, so forth, or even starting reception. How are you feeling as a parent? Would love to find out what your thoughts are, especially on the show this morning, because this is what we're going to be talking about, because I'm going to be joined by an absolutely wonderful guest. She is a community activist, somebody who is passionate about the community. She's also a very experienced mother, and somebody I always go to when I need advice and guidance on how to get my children through, be it the GCSEs, be it their A-levels, or even their degree. It is always good to talk to a mum that's been through that experience, or speak to a dad that's been through that experience, because it makes it more relatable. Would you agree? So I'm joined by no other than Musarat Jan, who's in the show with me this morning, live in the studio. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. You're too modest, Shemiza. You honestly are.
Oh, you know what? It's an absolute treat having you here. And I understand that our conversation this morning was all about the children and how we were trying to get them organised. It's always, oh my goodness, it's such.
Oh my God, yes. First day back is always hectic. It's always trying to get them up and preparing them the weekend before to say, you're going back to school. Remember, you're going back to school. And he was like, no, I go on a Tuesday, or I go on a Wednesday or something. And then you're checking your emails thinking, oh, when did I actually go back to school? Are they telling me the truth, or are they lying? So yeah.
Oh, that's so relatable. And we're in it right now. We are actually in this moment right now, aren't we? Because some of our children, they're staggered across the week, going in and out, and trying to keep track of that and finding all the paperwork to tell us exactly what those dates are. I mean, I recall sending my children, should I be saying this, on the wrong day? I sent them to school on the wrong day many years ago. I'm not doing that again. Have you had a mishap, folks? Any mishap? Share your stories. We're all about the love here. We're all about the experience. We're all together in this. So do tell us what your thoughts are, what experience you've had. If it's, it doesn't have to be Luton. It could be Peterborough, or it could be Sheffield. Do tell us on 07779 481822. What has your experience been like organising your children, getting them back to school and ready? Would love to hear. Now, Musarat's going to be staying with me all the way up to 11 o'clock, because I'm going to be tapping into all her wisdom. We're going to be talking about, motherhood, getting our children back to school, the education system, and also mental health. we're going to be tapping into that as well. So it's all coming up on the show, and we would love you to join in with any of the conversations. And give us a salam, because it's always good to send out a salam to us to show us that you're listening. In the studio with me is also Brother Tariq. He is a voice that you will recognize and because he is the studio manager at Inspire FM, and he also does a Rise and Shine show. So he knows all about being organized and getting himself ready and getting us all prepped for the day ahead on the Rise and Shine show. Now, Brother Tariq doesn't just present in the studio, he's also out and about in the community, and he covers a lot of our brilliant events that are going on, and so much had been happening at the weekend. And one event was the Luton in Bloom Farmers Market, and Brother Tariq is going to tell us all about that. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Welcome, salam. How are you?
I'm very well, Brother Tariq. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this morning. How was your morning first of all?
Alhamdulillah, not too bad. Decided not to do the Rise and Shine this morning due to a lot of the schools saying it's Teachers Training Day. Hence, I think some of the children, year 7s in particular, maybe year 11s, are going back tomorrow and pretty much full flow from Wednesday. So I thought I'd have a day off, which turned out to be a busier morning than doing the show, to be honest. We had a few slight issues with the radio station, so I had to go sort that out in the morning. So alhamdulillah, it happened today, not tomorrow. Hopefully it won't happen tomorrow as well. But yeah, with the Rise and Shine show, I know you say it's a familiar voice, but maybe not so much for the last 6 weeks at least anyway. So maybe some of the newer listeners who are listening in this morning may not have heard for the Rise and Shine show. But
well,
yeah,
it's a great plug for you.
Tomorrow,
great plug for you. He'll be back on the show tomorrow early. What time does your show start?
7 o'clock. 7 to 9, Monday to Friday.
Fantastic. Now, you talked about Teacher Training Day, which is known as Insect Day. I actually used to think it was Insect Day whilst I was growing up. That all the teachers would be like chasing all the insects, putting them away, or getting rid of them whilst the children are away.
They see them as they all like, just put them in their little boxes.
Yeah, that's what it was. Do you ever recall in the holidays when you were growing up? Because our way we grew up as children, very different to the way our children are growing up. Schools would allow you to take a pet home to look after over the summer holidays. We had a class pet, so we had a hamster. Sometimes those pets came back alive, sometimes they didn't.
We never did know.
Oh.
Yeah, what school you went to, Shemiza?
Well, I did go to school in the north.
What insects you were looking after? Our school definitely didn't have any pets.
Okay, from an insect to a hamster, there's a bit of a disparity there, but yeah, I recall that. So coming back to the show, did anybody else actually recall it being called Insect Day? Never mind. Okay, Brother Tariq, over to you. Insects and plants, nice little rollover.
Yeah, Luton in Bloom, mashallah. It's a project of our dear brother Sujil, mashallah. It comes out with some amazing ideas, and this was actually started off in February, where the idea was a lot of people, especially coming out of winter, suffering from isolation, a lot of loneliness out there. And the idea of Luton in Bloom was, how can we get people out there growing stuff, especially you see a lot of, especially front gardens and stuff, and some people taking a lot of pride in it and making an effort, others not so much. So it's an idea of trying to encourage people to do that. He ran a number of workshops to also educate people how to do that. I remember going to the workshop and they said, "How are you at gardening?" And I said, "I killed my lawn." So I don't think it's possible to kill grass, but apparently because it got too long and the sun wasn't able to get to the bottom. Well, it was winter. I didn't think it had to be cut in the winter, but anyway. So I've got loads of patches in my lawn, but apparently there's ways to fix that. And I was told that lawn actually never dies if you water it, and if you I think there's some sort of elements you can give to it, feeding it and stuff, and then grass actually comes back to life. So alhamdulillah, so there's a lot of lessons. There's a lot of education around, especially growing vegetables, around growing chilies. They did a special chili workshop. So all this was in order to get people out growing stuff, and it's more about getting communities talking together. And we had one particular community, mashallah. There's loads of examples to be honest, but one particular one I remember up in Stopsley, Lullington Close. It was that, I'm not sure if any of our listeners live anywhere close. An amazing community there where everybody knows each other. They even before this particular campaign, but more so due to the campaign, every single garden has been well kept, and we actually went up to see the close. And they help each other because there's quite a few people, quite a lot of elderly people living there now, not in a situation where they can maybe get down on their knees and start doing the gardening and stuff. So some of the younger guys will help them out, and all will maintain their gardens. But one of the things which I thought was really beautiful is every Saturday, I think it was 11 to 1 if I remember the time correctly, they will have a little tea party together. So they will all have a little tea party in the middle. The close has a little ending in at the end where they park. It's more of a car park thing. They have a tea party there where everybody's welcome, and they just have a chat and a catch up. How are you guys doing and stuff? And I thought that is so beautiful. And I think that, to be honest, from a community perspective, was literally Luton in Bloom in action, because the whole purpose of Luton in Bloom was to get people talking, was to get people connected, was to get people out of their houses and actually encourage people to converse with one another. But the problem it led to, I call it a problem, was the fact that there was a lot of produce. People were growing stuff, people were growing flowers, there's a lot of produce. So then we decided, well, what do we do with it now? There's a lot of people growing stuff. So this is where the Luton small farmers market idea came from. Just in June, I think end of June, we actually started speaking about it. So it hasn't been a long time coming together, but alhamdulillah, we managed to pull it off. Yesterday we did the event, and it was an amazing event at St. George's Square. I'm sure there was over 1,000 people there. A really nice family atmosphere, mashallah. We had all the residents down from Lavington Close and all the various different people that have taken place. And the whole idea was just come down and speak. All those people that have grown produce, it was all homegrown produce, it was flowers. Some people had honey, some people had handmade candles and all sorts of necklaces and stuff they were selling. So it's a small little marketplace for them to sell. We also set up a small little farm, so there's a farm, some farmers' animals and stuff. So it's a really nice atmosphere, and I think the whole purpose, to be honest, from my perspective, more than the event itself, is the ideas behind it. And I think as a community, if we can talk to one another, if we can get out there, help one another. If you're a really keen gardener, and some of those guys are really good, if you can help somebody else's garden look nice, they will really it really help them. And when you come out of your house, when you go to your house and you see a really nice, well-kept garden, I'm not great at growing, to be honest. I managed to, I think it was last week, I managed to jet wash my drive. And it actually really makes me smile every time I come home. And all it is a clean drive.
But it makes
imagine if you had flowers and stuff.
Oh,
so,
indeed.
Yeah.
So that's the next stage for you, putting flowers there on there, and then you've got a little, like, crockery going on, and you've got a little sign with your name on it. This is my house. Oh, I can just
would love something like that. Absolutely would love that. I have to say, last year I purchased a plant, a shrub, and it was at one of the children's, I think it was a summer fete or something like that. So anyway, I said to the guy that was selling it, I said, I need a plant that won't die and that will survive the whole winter, low maintenance. And he gave me this little plant, and I swear I've had it for a whole year.
Oh, wow.
I water it every so often, and every time it rains, I do dua. I say, "Oh, Ya Allah, thank you for raining," because I forgot to water the plant. So summer has been great. My lilies bloomed after 2 years, which was fantastic. They're very low maintenance plants, so I think if you're not green fingers, I think there are plants out there for everybody.
Yeah, like the plastic ones that you can put outside. Not that I have one, but it's been there and it's still green, which is great. And it actually is. We're all about being plastic free. But it's interesting with this plastic plant. It's got like little insects growing on it, so it's turned into a little like environmental plastic home for them. But wow, I love the fact that it's getting people out there. It's bringing communities together. And encouraging us to kind of get our fingers green, because when I think of gardening, I just think of tanya for the Asian community, the tanya in the gardens. Or now we're becoming a little bit more sophisticated, it sounds, with what's Brother Tariq is telling us with the greenery. Musa, you wanted to say something?
I did. I said when I was younger, my back garden, I used to grow tomato plants and runner beans, and I was so proud of my little garden patch. And then I don't know what happens with a lot of Asian gardens. You just pave it over with slabs.
Interesting. Low maintenance.
And yeah, low maintenance. And that's what I've done. And when Luton in Bloom, I mean, I listen to the radio show in the mornings when I'm taking the kids to school. And I was like, oh my God, I've always loved to have a garden with flowers and shrubs and all of that. But like you said, mine usually die. My sunflower died.
In the sun?
It's a sunflower, but that died. I don't even know how.
That's interesting. And so we need this, don't we, to educate, to inform. It's just encouraging people to start off slowly. And when you start off slowly and you've got a community you can turn to, it just encourages you more. So, Brother Terry, what was it that really stood out for you? And can we see this as an annual event? Do you think it has potential to be held every year?
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure the event's got mileage and hopefully will continue to grow. But I think the other thing also, which was really helpful and a lot of people commented on, was encouraging people to grow, as the sister just mentioned now regarding growing at home. I remember growing up, my grandma used to have a vegetable patch, tanya, as you mentioned, onions, for example,
garlic.
tomatoes, garlic, all these kind of things were regular things you'd go to your garden for, not the local shop. And I think at the moment, especially where, well, two things. Firstly, you're in a situation where you're trying to find fresh ingredients. You've got them as fresh as they come. And secondly, in the current climate where a lot of people are struggling financially, I think this will definitely be really worthwhile looking at fresh produce if you've got a garden, and obviously if you haven't slabbed it all over, because a lot of Asians unfortunately do tend, not necessarily maybe Asians, but obviously it's our experience that we have of them, do tend to do that. But I think it's definitely something worth doing. I think when it comes to whether it's killing plants or whatever it may be, I think a lot of people are reluctant to do it on two things. Firstly, the thing's going to be high maintenance. How much is it going to cost to buy them? How much is it going to cost to look after them? Even the cost of watering them on a regular basis, and the work involved itself. And the other thing is it actually going to survive? I think sometimes the problem we have with a lot of plants, you're talking about plants that can't die. I remember, I'm not sure whether Big T will probably be listening. He came into the studio a few years ago and he goes, I know what's missing in here. And I said, what? He goes, a plant. I said, why do I need a plant? I mean, the last thing I need is a mess. He goes, this is not a messy plant. It's a really nice plant. You need some greenery. And he bought a plant and he goes, you'll never be able to kill it. It's a plant that you can't kill. It doesn't die. Plastic? And I was like, okay. No, it wasn't even plastic. It's an actual plant. I can't remember what it was. And he came back after a few months, maybe a year later, and he said, where's the plant? And I go, it died. He goes, how did it die? And what I didn't know, and I think this is where sometimes, I mean, obviously you don't think, the reason why you have certain plants which are low maintenance and they don't die, they don't need a lot of attention. What I was doing is I go into a daily kind of a feature where first thing in the morning I'll come in, as I put the kettle on, I'd water the plant. I was thinking I'm having some water.
With hot water?
No, with normal water. I think I'll give some water to the plant. And I actually killed it by giving it too much water and it flooded because it wasn't needed. So the idea of that plant was it just survives. It doesn't need anything. But I killed it by giving it too much water. So I think there is a lesson there. But I think, to be honest, especially with the internet, with YouTube, there's so much available out there. If you are genuinely interested, you can do it. And I think the community aspect is absolutely amazing. And I think if you, especially if you live in a close, I think sometimes when you live on main roads and bigger kind of roads and stuff, it's maybe sometimes difficult. But if you live in small little closes, speak to your neighbors, get to know them, make sure they're okay, make sure everybody's okay. And I think this is what it's about. And I think there was actually a really beautiful reminder one of our brothers, Mohit, gave about, it's not even a close or anything, it's one of the Saints area roads where there was about 3 or 4 brothers. The road's quite, I think it's St. Margaret's. It's the one that when you go from Biscot Road, it's the one straight ahead. It's the whole road all the way up to where St. Ethelbert's Masjid is. There's a few brothers that live in that road. So what they've done is they're alhamdulillah placed where one's like in the start, one's like in the middle, one's a bit further down. So they've got responsibility between about 4, I think 5 of them, of maybe 30, I think houses each. And they just keep in contact with everybody. So he goes, the way we started this was we literally wrote our phone number down, said, my name is Mohit. I live at this number. This is my address. This is my family is this, my wife, and I've got 3 kids and I've got this. If you ever need anything, this is my number. Give me a call. He goes, we posted to those 20 houses I'm looking after. And since then, he goes, we've just always been connected. So I've got all the numbers for everything. We've got a road WhatsApp group. So we all know what's going on. If anyone's got any problems, if there's a littering problem or someone's got an issue with their garden or someone's car's not working, someone can't get a lift in the morning, or I'll drop you off, whatever. And that community, sense of community is really there. every Ramadan they have a community iftar. They book out one of the, I think last time they did in one of the local venues, they had about over 150 people there, all coming together. I mean, people of faith, no faith, all coming together to do an iftar together, because they're together as a community. And I think if we can live like that, I think that'll be really useful, to be honest, as well. But it makes the whole concept of connecting really beautiful. But I think it just takes a little effort. I'm sure there's people out there who want that. And there's so many people. When I went to Lullington Close, there was a lady, she was saying she lost her husband, I think 2 years ago. And she goes, I started to think what I'm going to do with my life now, because I'm retired. I don't have any children. I don't have any family. What am I going to do? And she goes, before I had my husband, I had one member of my family. Now I've got about 50 here, because they're all members of my family. And I think this is what it's about. I think in the current day and age that we live in, I think loneliness is a huge problem within our community. There's so many people who are lonely out there. I think mental health is obviously clearly on the rise. I think COVID has clearly taught us the importance of social interaction. And I think if we can help each other and be there for each other, and it's smaller things, maybe just go around. If you've cooked something, for example, I remember this is obviously regular in Pakistan.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, sometimes you'll come home and there's like 20 different dishes. I'm like, someone's been busy cooking. No, because every neighbour's, I mean, you've gone around taking one to the neighbour, they've given one. And
That was a regular thing even whilst my mum.
When we were
Yeah.
younger,
Yeah.
I was thinking that as well. Haven't we just reverted back to when we were children? I mean, we had a community, everybody knew everybody. My kids always say, they said, oh, Mummy, you know, if we walked out Bury Park, you seem to know everybody. You're always stopping and talking to somebody. And I'm like, yeah, because we all knew each other. To say my children have any relations or know anybody in the community, no. Because I think at some point, didn't we just all kind of get self-absorbed? And
I think
the community was never
the
there.
pandemic did kind of close us off a little bit. And I think coming out of the
Even
pandemic,
prior to that,
I think it was prior to that as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
I think like what Brother Tariq is saying, I remember growing up and we used to just go to someone's house and just sit there and have our tea there or something. And it was never a big thing because the doors were constantly open. We all grew together. You know, if you lived, my friend lived on Francis Street. So we used to go Maidenhall. And because Francis Street was so far away, it's just down the road. And we used to live on Westbourne Road, right next to the masjid. And so my mum was like, you just come to my house after school, have your tea, and then you could go to the masjid, because masjid was on Claremont Road at the time. And she used to go every day after school, she was here. And, you know, the mums got together, chatted a little bit, kind of made a relationship. And there was a lot of trust between the parents as well. And she used to come every day. We're best friends till this day. We meet up every couple of years, just catch up from where we left off. And I feel that our children don't get that. And I think that's where mental health, all of that comes into it as well, because they're so isolated. I don't know why.
And they don't have those skills, the interpersonal skills, those social skills that we were kind of like, it was forced upon us as children. Like, you know, you need to say salam, you need to speak to your elders, you need to mix in with the community.
Everybody was your auntie.
Yeah, and we were taken to so many places as well, which were very community related. Yeah. So, wow, is this, folks, something that you can relate to? Do share a snippet of your childhood. Were you somebody that like was very sociable whilst growing up, and now you're finding that your kids are not as sociable? Or were you somebody that, you know, remember dhania being grown, coriander being grown in your little patch in the garden whilst growing up? We'd love to hear from you. We are going to be heading to a break in about a couple of minutes' time. After the break, I'm still joined by Muzi. I'm going to say thank you to Brother Tariq for sharing the absolutely brilliant initiative called Luton and Bloom. It's a pleasure knowing about this. Is there anything you could share with our listeners about how they could possibly contact Luton and Bloom? Is there a website or anything for any potential ideas?
Yep, there's a website. It's literally called Luton and Bloom. I think it's .org.uk. I think check out the website. There'll be continuous workshops. I think they've got one planned for October. I think this year, because we started in February, we were told it was slightly out of season because there's certain plants actually grow a little earlier. So I think they're looking to start something off in October, just to get the earlier workshops in. So yeah, I think just keeping connected with the Facebook page if you're on Facebook, on the website, of course, and of course just listening to Inspire. So whenever there's any workshops and stuff, we'll let you know. But I think overall, I think the message for Luton Bloom is about connecting with communities, and I think it's very important that we all do our bit. And I think sometimes we're in a situation where we may be fine, but others may not be. So I think my message to out there will be just look after one another.
Indeed. Thank you so very much, Brother Tarek. We are going to be heading to a break now. After the break, I'm still joined by Musarat, who's going to be talking to us about her experience of a mum who has taken her children all the way up from primary school all the way up to university. Her children have graduated, so it'd be great to hear her experience about that. Also, we're going to be talking about community and streets, because she was part of a very interesting project where she actually shared her experience of living in Bury Park in a wonderful audio drama. So she's going to be talking to us about that, and we'll be finding out a little bit more about what you guys have been sharing with us on WhatsApp as well. So catch me straight after this. Assalamu alaikum.
I think you should stay because my plant has got some sort of disease.
Disease.
You know, like they get round things on their leaves and stuff like that. I think you should have someone who, even if it's for 5-10 minutes, like we could just text in or call in and say, listen, my plant's got
a show.
This kind of, what can I do?
Bloom have got a chat service, something on the website where you can ask advice. That'd be quite handy, actually.
I think a show around.
I think
growing.
A show like if you have
one.
No, you don't
think so. Planting.
Well, even if it's like half an
Niche.
hour.
You
Half
reckon?
an hour.
Yeah, I
or
think
even
so.
like if it's 10-15 minutes in your morning show or something, and if you could text in with the next one, say, listen, I've got brown spots. I'm Googling. Apparently, you're not supposed to take the leaf. You probably need some sort of nutrients. I have been Googling it.
Yeah.
I don't want it to die. But I didn't for 2 years.
I filled my whole house with plants, and then they all just died. And it's just, and even with the rainfall has been so much that the weeds have come up stronger.
Oh, I have been taking the weeds out.
Really
but this one, in the winter, it goes red. And in the summer, it turns green. It's a beautiful plant. I don't know what it's called. I just bought it because I didn't.
There's an app.
Yeah, they always say
on this
about
called
an
Name
app.
My Plants. There's an app that basically, if you download it, you can take a picture of any plant, any tree, anything, and it tells you what it's called.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
I did Google that, and it was saying you could do this and you could do that. Last year I had white flies on it, so I had to Google how to kill them.
Oh goodness!
I know it's difficult.
Hard work. That's what people don't do.
It's difficult.
I literally did the same thing. I've got rid of all my garden. I had loads of trees and all this. There's loads of shrubs and everything. I got rid of everything, and I did lawn. I got clean lawn everywhere. I've got a small little. It's meant to be a flowers patch, but got so many weeds in it and stuff. I took everything. I ripped everything out.
But you're really good like that because you're consistent. When you start, you do finish it. I mean, like you talked about your tree about 2 years ago, the way you got rid of that. Mine is humongous. My garden.
I think with the lawn, you've got to mow it every month. Once a month, you need to mow.
I think the summer I've been doing it every 2 weeks, so it hasn't been too bad. Unless I was like this weekend I wasn't available. I'll do it next weekend. But the flowers were nice actually. One of my friends, he's actually likes gardening and stuff, so he hasn't got a garden. So he goes to me, I'll come and do the flowers. So in the flower bed, he put like all these different mix of flowers. They're actually really nice. They lasted for about a year or so, and then they died in the winter.
My mum's.
Yeah, I've got them in little.
My mum's really good. Her garden's gorgeous. She's always brilliant in growing stuff, all organic living. That woman, if I look back, even my children are quite impressed. Like she was ahead of her time.
I was so good when I was young. I don't know what's happened. I think society's changing.
People have got busy.
Priorities elsewhere.
People have got busy, and it's not a priority. And I think with children, I think the problem is, I think mobile phones has been a huge issue. The change in technology, the increasing technology has.
It's frazzled. It's short-circuited their brain.
Everything.
Short-circuited their brain.
I remember I was speaking to Mahmoud or someone. We were having a conversation, and we were talking about Pakistan. I go, listen, it's a situation where we'll have like I don't know, one little plate and like 5-6 people would eat out of it. I go now, and then we had communities, we had love, we had everything.
It's too much nakhra.
Now we've got everything, but we've lost everything because we've lost all that. Families don't want to know each other, communities don't want to know each other.
But don't you think that is how when we were growing up, like we knew everybody.
It was.
See, you still encourage that connecting, going. I'm such a loner. It's just me, myself, and my kids.
Though, isn't it?
So we're going in about 6 seconds.
Right, not too much about my kids' lives.
Okay.
From
No,
the
you're not
studio
supposing
to
them,
Inspire
just
FM,
experience.
The time is now 10:13. Catch a creative vibe on the Urban Cube with Sister Shemiza.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum. It is 10:30, 4th of September, and listening to me, Shemiza, taking you all the way up to 11 o'clock on the second part of the Urban Cube show. It's a show that has creative conversations with inspiring individuals, and today's show we are talking more about motherhood and lifestyle this morning, because it is everybody's getting ready to go back to school. Some children start today, others will start later on in the week, but it's getting them ready, getting them motivated, getting them organized, and it's always on the head of the parents, in particular the mum, to make sure that happens. So I've got a mum in the studio who knows all about that, because she's had a wealth of experience and still continues to do so with her wonderful children, who mashallah are doing extraordinarily well. She's always been my go-to when I need advice, guidance, or support on issues, from just the minute to the major. She is my go-to, and it's no other than Muzi, who's in the studio this morning with me. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
First of all, I just want to say I'm no expert. I have no degrees or anything like that. Just general experience of motherhood and having children. That's about it.
That's enough. Do we need to have a degree for motherhood? No, we don't. It's
I'm
all
not
about...
an expert in any field. I just want to make that clear to your listeners.
I want to say thank you for the support, that is the snippets of advice and guidance, and the fact that whenever I will just feel like it's getting on top of me, I'll speak, we'll have a chat. You're so raw, you're so real, and it makes it all okay again. So thank you for that. I just want to give you a shout out to all that. You can pay me later. A coffee and cake will be great, but coffee and cake and a chat is all we need. Sometimes we need as mothers, right?
I think it's just you need someone to offload.
Of course.
I think that's what it is. And you always think your children are the only ones going through this, and maybe it's just you, but believe it or not, everybody is going through the same experience. It could be from anything. Choosing subjects for GCSE, or you know best, and you're trying to encourage them to go in a certain direction, and all of that, and the children have their own way. Oh, I might want to go in this, but you're thinking, well, I've been there, got the t-shirt, I'm advising you to go in this, and then you ring someone up and say, oh, do you know what, they're not listening to me. And you realize, hold on a second. Okay, so if my child has gone to university, but when they were in high school, I was going through the same problems with them, or same issues with them. So so everyone is experiencing the same thing at different times, because obviously everybody's children are not the same age. So I just feel everyone's going through the same thing, probably just at different stages. So I can now sit back and look and think, I can advise you on certain things. This is how I did it. Or if I found a route that I've kind of looked into and researched and it's worked, I could offer that route to you. And then, you could either follow that route or do a further, research into it and see if it fits what your child wants to go into. So, I mean, I will look to someone who's got their children in a really high paying job, probably where my child wants to be, and I'll probably go to them for advice and say, how do I do that, or what avenues do I need to go through to get my child in that position. So
that's interesting that you would actually go to somebody's child family whose child is in a high paid job. That's a really interesting way of looking at it.
That's what we want, don't we? We want,
of course.
Our children to get a good job so they can financially be stable in the future.
Now, you've got two children, mashallah, that have graduated and are now in very good working positions, mashallah. And then you've got children who are still in the education system, university, en route to university, and one about to do their GCSEs. So what have you noticed that's different between your younger children compared to your older children, and the educational system itself and society overall?
Oh gosh, a lot has changed. I think if you look at, I think from a perspective of someone who works with children, they will tell you, when you have children that are in their late 20s, and then you have children that are still in education, like GCSEs and A levels like that, they're considered two families. Yeah, so that it's not one family, it's two families, because the older children are grown up. So that's one family you've completed, and then you're starting another family. The older children, obviously being in the late 20s, you've got to remember there weren't computers available readily anyway. iPhones weren't really invented. You had your brick phone, you had your Nokia, and children weren't given that. So we were just so happy we had one. I was glad when I got my Nokia. So children weren't into technology as much. So a lot of that was reading. They were trying to find things they needed to do to entertain themselves. So it was a lot of going to the library a lot. So that's how my older two.
So a lot more independence in finding their source
finding themselves
learning,
and finding entertainment for themselves. When the younger family of mine grew up, technology had advanced a lot. Computers were in schools. iPhones came into play. I mean, I had one, so the kids were using it quite a lot. I don't know when social media kind of came up, but I know a lot of text messaging and pictures and all of that kind of came in. So they were brought up in that generation of technology. And it was difficult for them to kind of, they did do some reading. I tried to keep that going with them, like take them to the libraries and all of that. But that really phased out with my younger child, who's 15 now, who's doing his GCSE. So it completely phased out, where it was very difficult to get him to the library. My older two were still at the library.
And how old are your older two, so people can get a
so my eldest is 29 and my son is 26.
Okay.
And then he's 21, 18 and 15. So a completely two different generations. So yeah, so my 15-year-old, he did get into reading. He did like I don't know, I think it was the Rider books. He got into that, but then that phased out as well. So he's more into technology. He's more into coding and things like that. That is just sitting there in front of a computer, trying to do all of that. And I think then picking subjects as well and education, it's changed quite a lot. They're very isolated. Social interaction is very limited. With coding, everything's done online. You don't even need to go into like classrooms and things like that. And I really miss that. And I really encourage him to find a club where he can interact with people, you know, and go there and face to face and speak to people. He's very shy when he comes to, if he meets anyone, he doesn't want to speak to them. Wants to just sit there quietly. I mean, he listens, he takes on board, but he finds that social interaction very difficult. I mean,
and do you think that has a lot to do with society and the way our youngsters and now what they're being exposed to? And you spoke about they're more isolated.
I think, yeah, I think COVID, like the brother was saying, I think COVID had an impact on the children's mental health and that isolation. And if you think about it, for 2 years, if you're going to sit there on your own with just your family, and even then I think we all kind of got on each other's nerves because we were living in each other's pockets. So everybody wanted to just go into their rooms and find a quiet space. And my quiet space was in the garden. I spent most of my time just sitting there in the garden, apart from feeding the children and the family, and then I just want to be on my own. And I think for the youngsters, for my kids as well, obviously my daughter works in the hospital, so she was the only one that was actually working. Everybody else, we were just stuck there. And I think they were beginning to annoy each other a lot. There were times when they were having so much fun, and then there was times they just wanted to be on their own. And I think what you realised was in all of the midst of COVID was how differently each child responded to that and how it impacted them differently.
Interesting.
I can honestly say it might have impacted one of my children more so than the rest of them. I think my youngest was quite happily just to sleep a lot. So he was just happy that he just wanted to stay in and he didn't go to school. I think one of my children loved the fact that there was some sort of routine in their lives, which they didn't have and couldn't deal with that, and how to cope. Whether that, I don't know if, I think after COVID, I think the schools realised that they needed something for the children. But prior to that, I think it was just the norm. You got up, you went to school, there was a routine, you went to masjid, you come back.
It's interesting, isn't it, how routine is so important. We need to have routine in our lives to kind of get us motivated, focused, and mentally stimulated as well, to actually physically get up and do something. Where some of us are quite, find that hard, but actually it is quite healthy to do that. Even in your day-to-day life, even if you're at home, if there's a routine set, that really is very good for your mental well-being. Folks, if you've tuned in, it's 10:40, 4th of September. You're listening to me, Shemiza, taking you all the way up to 11 o'clock on the Urban Cube Show, brought to you on Inspire FM 105.1 FM. We're going live and direct to our listeners in Luton surrounding areas, Peterborough's Salam Radio and Sheffield's Link FM. I'm joined by Musarat Jan, who is from Luton. She's a local, an avid listener to the show, and somebody I've known for many a year, somebody I admire. And she's my go-to person when it comes to anything around motherhood and various other stuff as well. But motherhood is something that I find that she is brilliant at.
Thank you. I honestly don't feel I am.
And I just thought, you know what, you'd be perfect for today's show, because we're all kind of getting back into the swing of getting our children back to school. We've had an interesting summer break. It's gone by so quickly. And now it's kind of organising our children back into that routine. Now, as Brother Tariq had shared with us earlier on in the show, that today is Insect Day, not Insect Day, Insect Day. I used to think it was Insect Day whilst I was growing up. And so many children are at home. They'll be starting either Tuesday or Wednesday, and there will be lots of young people that may have started already doing their induction at college. And the older lot getting ready, packing for university as well. And I can relate to all of those things, because my children are in all of those phases presently. And so we're catching up with Muzi about that. If you've got any questions, folks, please do get in touch with us. I'm more than happy to read out your messages on 07779481822. Do you recall the first time you'd actually, started helping your eldest or the firstborn going off to university, guys? Because a lot of universities are, a lot of young people will be making their journey to university, a new episode, a new chapter to their life. I mean, what was that experience like for you, Muzi?
Oh my God, I think, it was so exciting for me. It was like I was doing that journey with her. I was so proud. She went to Hertfordshire, local uni, fantastic uni. It's a fantastic uni, and she absolutely loved it. She kept her head down and she did what she needed to do, and I was there all the way, supported her. I think we did a lot of research. I think what is really important is the schools encouraging the children, guiding them. She went to Hitchin, which was not our local schools. They were absolutely fantastic with giving advice and career advice and everything for her. And your route A and your route B, and I think it's extremely important. If your children don't get route A, there's always a route B, and the B can open the door to the A. It's
just explain what you mean by that. What is route A, route B?
For example, if your child wants to go into medicine, and they didn't get the grades, and there's always a different route. For example, they could go into biomed, go through that route. Yes, it will take you that little bit longer, but you can do that for 4 years, and then I think you do a couple of years less when you go on to medicine. So there's always options, so you don't get disheartened because your child didn't get the grade that they got. There's always a different route, and they can get there. And I think it's highly important that careers officers or your mentors at colleges make you aware of that. look, if you don't get this, don't worry about it. Do this route. Absolutely. With my eldest, I mean, like a lot of people, I wanted a doctor. Didn't get one. Anyway, so that was our main aim. We was like, yeah, she's going to get into medicine. Anyway, she didn't. But the good thing was her careers advisor said, okay. And the brilliant thing was, I was there, I was called in. It was done like a parent and child kind of talk. And she was, so I can't remember his name. He was a fantastic sixth form tutor. He said, okay, if she can't get this and she doesn't get the grades, what have you got planned next? And we just looked at each other and we thought, God, absolutely nothing. We've got no plan B. And then he said, well, can I make a suggestion? We were like, yeah, brilliant. You know, what do you do? Actually, it's a fact. We're not guaranteed those grades. So he said, look, right, to get into the field you want to go into, there's a backup plan. You can do this and you can then still get into where you want to get into medicine. We looked at it and we thought, fantastic. So we've got a safety net. So what happened was, obviously she didn't get the grades. However, when she did do biomed, what she realised was actually she's passionate about the research side of it. And she didn't want to go into medicine anymore. That wasn't what she wanted to do anymore. So when she did do biomed, she realised, and she did a year's experience and everything else she needed to do, she realised that it was the research side of it that really intrigued her, and that's what she wanted to do. So it's amazing, isn't it? You have one set of goals, but it's something completely different. You know, your child actually builds their career in. So she's thriving where she is now and absolutely loves it.
Fantastic, and well done to her. And
absolutely.
And she has done extraordinarily well.
And I always say we.
I noticed that, but you know, well done to you, mummy, as well, and her journey and allowing her to flourish when she finally found what she was passionate about, and she has done extraordinarily well and continues to do so. So congratulations on that front. But it is fascinating that you've raised this, and I think we need to hear more of it. That there's always a route B.
There's always a route B.
In everything that we do in life, always have a plan B, always have a route B. It's okay if things don't work out the first time. Maybe that is the will of Allah, and
exactly, I say
and there's something better in store for you. One door closes, 10 other doors open, as the saying goes. So thank you for reminding us that, and thank you for that advice, because I think you know, it is quite a testing time for parents, and parents want the best for their children. But sometimes, you know, there could be disappointment in the way when the child doesn't get what you first planned out. But there's always another option. And you look back. Sometimes you look back and think, what was the point of all that stress?
What was it? It was nothing. You know, I think sometimes we live through our children. I think because our generation is quite different, so we kind of think our passions should be lived through our children.
Interesting.
I think I probably did with the first two. I'm not going to deny that. But I think with the younger three, and if things don't work out, and you know me, Shemiza, I've always said that, haven't I? I always say, it's okay, it's fine. We will deal with it. Don't worry about it. But I think with the older two, maybe I was a younger mum at the time as well. I don't know, it's quite different with the older two. But with the younger ones, I'm more like, it's okay, it's fine. We'll deal with it. Don't worry about it.
We're a lot more chill, aren't we?
Yeah.
We've seen the process, we've experienced the process. We know they'll be okay. I always say this to folk. I don't know if I'm being quite overly confident with this. As children of migrant parents, when they came to this country, they didn't have that skill set because they were finding their way. They were battling battles that we should admire and applaud, because their life was extremely tough. Coming to a new country, an absolutely new world, not knowing the language, not having the know-how, how to navigate things, even just like catching a bus. They had to learn the hard way. So, and yet we are the offspring that are born in this country, and we're doing all right without all that support that many of us didn't get. So now we know, we're more experienced, we're more knowledgeable. We know how to navigate things, navigate the academic system, navigate life in general, and have the better equipped skills to hand over to our children. So I feel that our children will be okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think so as well. I think we've learned a lot, but at the same time, I think we've made a lot of mistakes, not judging situations correctly. I think, you see, we like I said, we were from immigrant parents, so we were brought up completely differently. We had a lot of restrictions as well, I think, growing up as well.
Indeed.
So we've kind of given an open field to our children. You can achieve anything, which is fantastic. Yeah, you can achieve everything. But at the same time, sometimes we second guess ourselves, you know.
So do we think we need to rein them in a little bit more?
We rein them in a little bit, I think. And I think what we're forgetting, and Tariq, I mean, I think when we were talking about this earlier on, it's about that community thing that we've lost something. We've gained something, but I think we've lost a lot. The community aspect of it all, and, you know, caring about each other. It's all about you need to achieve this. You need to go high as you possibly can. And then you forget, hold on a second, there's a lot of other people around that we're just leaving behind and forgetting about, you know. And I'm not talking about family, but I'm talking about extended family. And I lived on my road for 20 odd years. I only know 2 people on that street. Because when we grew up, it was about community. It was about, you know, that age I was saying, the village brings up the children, you know. But nowadays, then that got phased out. I don't know why or even how. We grew out of that, where we thought we can do everything. We don't need anybody. And our generation tried to do that. But has that impacted our children? Have they, you know, are they closed off? Are they finding it difficult to social interact with other people? You know, has that impacted? Is that included in mental health? Were we part of that, creating that mental health for our children and anxiety? And I think you have to look at everything. You have to look at society, what our parents did. And I was watching this thing on social media, and we've always said, is it nature or nurture? How can a family with the same morals and principles have different children when you've brought them up, you know, with the same principles, you're giving them the same rights and everything? And there was this, and what set with me, and actually it's quite upsetting, is you've got to treat your children completely equally. If you've got 5 children or 6 children, it's quite difficult to give them that same love, that same attention, everything. And I, you know, I'm reflecting on this as a parent, a mother of 5. I'm thinking, did I, you know, was I? The youngest is always the spoiled one. Everybody spoils the youngest. The middle children, you know, the middle syndrome is an actual thing.
Middle child
syndrome.
middle
child syndrome. Did I not do that? Did I, you know, they were saying if you pick up one child, hug all your children at the same time, because you're giving them equality. You know, it's not because you're the youngest and I'm going to hug you the most, because at the same time the older children are thinking, hold on a second, so is he your favorite? You know, you have to do that. If you buy one item of sweet, you know, you always give it to the young. Oh, you're the youngest, you can have this sweet. No, those sweets should be distributed equally, whether they want it or not. So there's no jealousy and all of that, no envy and all of that. Whether they want it or not, they know that you're thinking of them at that moment in time. So I was thinking, did I do that? I kind of reflected, thinking, oh, I don't think
you know,
I
you're
did.
making me think as well, did I do that? And I bet a lot of other parents are thinking the same as well. But that's some great advice that you've given there. And hopefully I'll put it when I get home. I'm going to be
hugging all of them.
Yeah, we've got about a minute left.
Oh,
and Muzzy, you're part of something really interesting. It's called the Museum of Stories, and your story has been featured. It's a geolocated walk through Bury Park. And
I'm so excited about this one. So excited. I urge everybody to pick a story and please go there and listen to the stories. You will so relate to most of them. And when I was there, when we did the recording, we read through the scripts. I could relate to the masjid being built on Westbourne Road because I remember being there. I remember the skinheads, the chicken chip shop story, and obviously my story of the bridge. I urge everybody, please, if you can't make all of it, at least attempt one, because I swear you will connect to these stories, especially if you were growing up in the 80s.
Yeah, in Bury Park. So it's
Yeah.
www.museumofstories.co.uk. It's a free community audio walk on a geolocated app. A Muzzy story, Bridges, is featured
Bridges
in it.
is there. I want you there.
And
everybody.
she's actually, it's her voice and her daughter's voice also
Yeah.
featured in this. It's many other stories as well. You've got a story around K&N Snooker Club. I bet that relates to a lot of people and various others. It's a Museum of Stories. It is the end of the show. Thank you so much,
Thank
Muzzy,
you
for
for
joining
having
me. And
Thank
inshallah,
you.
catch you very soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nizam. Hope you're enjoying
You were
this.
brilliant.
I don't know, man. I didn't make it.
No, but that was really fascinating about teaching your, keeping your kids equal. Look, thank you for like plugging in.